Thank you. So we're now live again. So no further questions. I will put the recommendations to you. They are quite lengthy, so please bear with me. They are that the subcommittee recommends Council 1 notes the artificial intelligence, AI is increasingly being used by a range of public and private organisations to improve operational effectiveness and service delivery. 2, notes that AI encompasses a range of unique risks which, combined with the emergence and rapid uptake of the technology, means it is appropriate for Council's Audit and Risk Subcommittee to maintain oversight of Council's AI work. 3, notes that the AI strategy and AI policy approved by Council's corporate leadership team form a sound basis to guide the organisation's AI use. 4, notes AI has been included in Council's strategic risk register, which will ensure that the corporate leadership team and elective members have appropriate oversight of risks associated with AI. 5, notes that a strategic partnership has been agreed upon between Hutt City Council and PwC to work together on AI initiatives, and that this partnership has a range of benefits to Council, including access to resource and expertise and reduced AI implementation costs. And 6, notes an internal improvement project is underway called AI Evolution, which is implementing AI within Council's environment in a way that will lead to savings in the short to medium term. 7, notes that Council's focus on AI supports the strategic intentions set out in the long-term plan, particularly the focus on improving operational efficiency and achieving cost savings, and delivering this work in a way that represents value for money. And lastly, 8, notes that AI is a focus of the Chief Executive's performance objectives for this financial year, and AI-related work is underway is consistent with achieving those objectives. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion on this report, members? Councillor Stellinger, comment?
Yes, just to say, very pleased to see this. I wasn't really expecting it, but it reads very well and sounds like a great initiative, and pleased that the council's kind of jumping in a wise way, it seems, and trying to take advantage of the opportunities. I've been pretty slow to take up any AI, kind of knowingly, myself, but just recently have seen, simple little things like if you might have done a report a while ago and fire it in and say, please update for any new research, bang, 5 seconds later, half your jobs can be done for you. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen over the coming years. So thanks, Jared and PwC for this work.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. So thank you, Jared, and thank you, Ben, and also to PwC. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to get back to your day. Thank you. So that takes us to item 6 on our agenda. We have now we've got 3 audit reports, and as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately John Whittle is ill today, so not able to join us. The first one is the external audit update for Urban Plus Limited, which is the parent and the group. Good afternoon, Darren. I'd like to ask you to speak to the report, please, and highlight any key points you wish to.
Thank you, Chair. So for the Urban Plus Group, the report, I'll take that has been read, and there's 3 attachments in Appendix 1, 2 and 3 relating to the various entities of the Urban Plus Group. Just like to mention or point out that Urban Plus did receive a unqualified audit report. Their paper or their annual report was adopted by the board on the 25th of September and was subsequently presented to the council on the 14th of October. And the pleasing part about this report is in the management report there is no outstanding recommendations recommended by Audit New Zealand. So it's a good result.
Thank you, Darren. Jenny, is there any comment you'd like to add?
Outstanding result.
Yes, Jenny asked me a question earlier on just before we started the meeting if I could name any public sector entity in either local government or central government that I knew of that had a report such as this with no management recommendations. And the answer is I'm not aware of any. So there you go. A great outcome. Thank you, Darren, and thank you, Jenny. Councillors Stellinger and Councillor Morgan, are there any questions? No, thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee notes the Audit New Zealand's management report on the audit of Urban Plus Limited Group Annual Report 2023-2024 as attached as appendices 1, 2 and 3 to the report. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any discussion further on this paper? Councillor Morgan, thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say a huge congratulations. It's an excellent report, and it's, I know, a team effort. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of you and the great work that you're doing. Ngā mihi.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Stellinger.
Just express the same congratulations. You know, I had quite a few years as an auditor, and then plenty of years in financial accounting, and I don't think I ever issued an audit report that didn't have recommendations on, and I never managed to achieve one myself that I recall either. So, yeah, certainly it's great to be have just done the work so well that there's nothing to comment in that regard from the auditors.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger, and also Councillor Morgan. I think also just in that spirit, if I reflect when I first was appointed to chair and be the independent chair of this subcommittee going back to 2020, I can assure you that the audit reports did not look like this. In fact, I had quite a conversation with the CEO and the CFO and said, what is happening? We need to fix this, and we have. So look, I think that's a good thing too. So thank you all for that. So I've moved the recommendations. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Is there any? So we've discussed that. Sorry, I need to catch up on myself a little here. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. Declare the motion carried. And Darren, you're not running away because we're moving on to the next one, which is the external audit update for Seaview Marina. So please, the same, take your report as read and highlight any points you wish to.
Thank you, Chair. So really, same thing with Seaview Marina, unqualified audit report, which was really good. Was adopted by their board 24 September and also presented to Council on the 14th of October. We do have one outstanding management letter point that's been raised this year, just in relation to the paperwork around rental agreements, which the Seaview Marina team are busy compiling at the moment, so they've got that underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Are there any questions? Councillor Morgan.
Kia ora. Yeah, thank you. Just with those recommendations, just wondering, is there a timeline just around those rental agreements getting signed, getting digital? Do they have a time frame when they hope to have that all ticked off and checked?
Definitely before the next round of audits, so it'll be before June next year, but preferably sooner. Yep.
Thank you, Darren. Any further questions? No, thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee notes the Audit New Zealand management report on the audit of Seaview Marina Limited Annual Report 2023-2024 as attached as Appendix 1 to this report. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stellinger, thank you. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any discussion on this report? Councillor Stellinger?
Just another good result.
Absolutely. Thank you. So on that basis, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. So the next the audit report is that of Hutt City Council, the external audit update. Jenny, are you speaking to this, or is Darren? You are. Thank you. So Jenny, please go ahead.
Cool. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this is another one where we've got a good result. So the report's basically the group annual report, year ended 30 June 2024. So we successfully completed the group annual report and got it signed out by the auditors on the 29th of October, which was in line with the statutory deadline. The financial statements, we had an unmodified, clean audit opinion, so that's a really good result. And in the performance section, there was a qualification around KPIs relating to Three Waters customer complaints, and this piece has been ongoing for a number of years, and there is work underway around some system improvements on our side of the fence, and there's also work to do for Wellington Water to improve their reporting. Just some Other comments on the audit opinion. So there were two emphasis of matter points that were raised. The one related to greenhouse gas emissions and the uncertainty of those measurements, and that's one that we've had for many years. It's been ongoing. There was a new emphasis of matter point around the fair value of 3 water assets. Now, this was one of our really chunky, challenging pieces of work for this group annual report. We did work really closely with Wellington City Council and Upper Hutt City Council to get this valuation done. And I must say the quality of the valuation and the work that was undertaken was a real big step up from what we've done in the past. I'm really pleased with that. The emphasis of matter point that was raised in our audit opinion was also raised for Wellington City Council and Upper Hutt City Council. And basically, the auditors said that they did their detailed work checking all our methodology and assumptions and the disclosures and so on, and they were really comfortable with where we'd landed with the fair values, and they were based on the contract rates. But basically what they said was there was some uncertainty about the enduring nature of those unit rates, because we had seen a massive big increase, a 76% increase in asset values. And in the context of water reform and also work that's happening at Wellington Water around reviewing their procurement panels, potentially those unit rates will change and hopefully go down over time. So that was basically in the nutshell of that emphasis of matter point. And then in terms of the management points in this report, we closed out 2 items. So there was the valuation of property, plant and equipment, and the IT disaster recovery item, where we closed out those 2 points, which is great. And then 2 new management points raised. The one relates to the revenue recognition for grants and subsidies. Crown Infrastructure Partners have got some complexity around project milestones that we need to be really careful around how we recognise revenue. And we did have some new staff in this area, so we know there are some improvements we need to make around that revenue recognition piece. And then the final management point relates to Wellington Water, was the disclosures on the capital commitments. We've got a dependency on them for that information, and they have committed to making some improvements in the next year to sort out that disclosure requirement. Yes, I'll close off there. That's the summary. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Are there any questions, Councillors Morgan or Stillinger? Councillor Stillinger.
I hope you bear with me because this might take a little bit longer than other questions I've asked. There's something I'm particularly interested in, and I've asked a few questions at other committees and I've had helpful responses, but there's really a bit of new information in here which I hadn't to mind in the past. So it concerns the asset valuations, and just for this committee's interest, a question I asked recently, I can't remember the other committee, was given there's been such a large increase, and I think for water service assets the increase was higher than the 76%, if I remember correctly, quite significantly higher. And so my question then was, if the costs, the unit costs have risen so rapidly, is that a trend or a sustainable rise, or could we be in a cyclical period during which we're best not to actually replace as many assets if we're going to get cheaper prices in a couple of years' time? And the response to that was that Wellington Water was doing a review of the procurement and looking at that type of issue. So I was very happy with that, and I see it's noted here in the management report. The comments I found interesting here from the auditors, who obviously turned their minds quite a lot to this issue as well, is that they had not seen the same degree of increase in other areas as they have here. And I take it from our CFO's comment that Wellington, that Upper Hutt and Porirua had similar percentage increases to ours during that revaluation. So it just causes me to question even more so why we might have seen such large increases. Have we been paying top dollar? Is our procurement practices not been as efficient as some others? And I wouldn't normally see that as a matter for us to question so much, but just because of the scale of the investment that's going on, because we are talking billions rather than even hundreds of millions in terms of our LTP here. So I just wonder if there's any more comments Jenny could make on that issue, that angle there. yeah, I'm just hoping to get a bit more assurance that we're going to get some full responses on not just looking forward, but did anything go wrong in the past, I suppose?
No, thank you. Good question, Councillor Stallinger, and I'm sure you'll probably also hear more about this as you work through your draft annual plan, which you have a briefing tomorrow. But Jenny, is there anything else you can add? I mean, I've got a couple of comments also just sort of on the wider context of this I can add once Jenny has spoken.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. So Wellington City Council did a revaluation 2 years ago and a more detailed version with the same valuers, and they actually had a big uplift in their values 2 years ago that we didn't actually pick up. So this last valuation, they didn't see the same uplift as us. So it wasn't all of us having the same experience. I suppose ours was much bigger step up, and Upper Hutt also didn't have as much of a step up as our valuation increase. So I suppose it really depends on what contracts and work that's been happening recently that they base the valuation on. So just wanted to clarify that point. In terms of the procurement practices and so on, I think that's really something we need to drill into through the annual plan process with Wellington Water. We do have them coming here tomorrow night for the briefing on waters, and also obviously there's no other opportunities through LTP annual plan subcommittee as well, and probably the Wellington Water Committee. I think that's also a key topic that's been covered off in terms of that procurement practice and the opportunity to make improvements going forward.
Thank you, Jenny. Just a couple of sort of more broad comments on that, Councillor Stallinger. I'm aware that there are a number of other councils across New Zealand that have not yet undertaken an asset revaluation of the content of the extent that we have here. So I would suggest that they will probably, unfortunately, get quite a nasty surprise coming at them. Also, in the context of the Deputy Chair of the Infrastructure Commission, as you know, it's in my disclosure, we've obviously done a lot of work on this as well and across broader asset revaluations, and there's some advice being prepared at the moment on asset management for the Minister. This is something that is not unusual. There has been it's a pattern that's there. Is it something that will continue? I think is probably a challenging question to answer accurately because there's a number of inputs to it. But I think that if I was in your position, the comfort that I would be taking from this is that you have officers who are right across this, who are looking at it, they're detailing it, and obviously it is going to be looked at quite closely through the annual plan, draft annual plan, and also the Wellington Water Committee, as Jenny has said. But I think it's a very appropriate question, Councillor Stallinger. Another question? Of course.
Just following up on a comment from Jenny, and that was that Wellington City Council had quite a big uplift when 2 years ago they used the same valuer. So my question is just, do you think a part of the reason for the increase, or a significant part, was to do with the methodology of the valuer? Being more comprehensive or different?
It's the more comprehensive and better quality of asset data underlying, and a lot closer work with Wellington Water to justify and make sure that the asset data is there. So, for example, we had a whole lot of work that happened in the midst of our valuation to go out and check and validate the pump stations and so on, and validate a bunch of contracts and so on. So there's a lot of really detailed work, really looking under the hood to check the accuracy of it. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for those questions, Councillor Stallinger. Are there any further questions? No, thank you. I'll move the recommendation, and that is that the Subcommittee 1 receives and notes Audit New Zealand's management report on the audit of Hutt City Council Group Annual Report 2023-2024 attached as Appendix 1 to the report, and 2, notes that 2 Audit New Zealand management recommendations have been closed out and resolved in 2023-2024 report, being A, valuation of property, plant and equipment, and B, IT disaster recovery plans requiring testing. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion, councillors? No? Thank you. I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried, and thank you, Jenny, to you and your team for all your hard work on that. So that takes us to item 9 on our agenda, which is the sensitive expenditure disclosures, which is obviously a regular report to this committee. So Darren, I'll pass to you if there's any points you would like to bring to our attention. Thank you.
No, I'll just state the paper has been read. Just one point probably to note is point 4 on the report, that we have disclosed reimbursements in relation to mileage claims, right through from the period where we started this reporting regime. And so that's the only difference on this report than previous reports.
Thank you, Darren. And when I looked at the draft reports, I did ask that question at people that of both Joe and Jenny, that people were satisfied that the correct processes, etc., had been followed, and I was given the assurance that was expected. So I did just like to give both councillors present that assurance, and I did check that as well. Are there any questions? No, thank you. I'll then move that the subcommittee receives and notes the information, and 2, notes the sensitive expenditure disclosure information attached as Appendix 1 to the report, which is entitled Sensitive Expenditure 1 July to 30 September 2024. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion? No, thank you. I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. So that takes us to item 10 on our agenda, which is on page 129. I'd like to welcome Nishana, the Risk and Assurance Manager, to speak to your report. Good afternoon, Nishana. Good to see you. Please take your report as read and just highlight any key points you wish to bring to our attention.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll take this report as read. The last update was provided in August. There are 2 key changes to the Strategic Risk Register. One is that we've added the Seaview wastewater plant as a strategic risk, and we have also added artificial intelligence. The Seaview wastewater plant has been added because of, you would see all the media stuff going on, the asset is aging, the poor conditions, impacting both its capacity and performance, breaching our resource consent conditions, and council has received some infringements as a result. Artificial intelligence has been listed on the Strategic Risk Register. As Jared discussed earlier on, it brings a host of benefits for us, but with any new technology, there is a level of uncertainty, so officers have taken a decision to list this on the register. All overall residue risk ratings remain the same, being 9 are medium, including the 2 new ones, and 1 is low. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishana. Are there any questions? No? Thank you. I'll then move the recommendations, and they are that the subcommittee 1 receives and notes the information, 2 notes there are 10 risks, previously 8, on Council's Strategic Risk Register, 3 notes 2 new risks, being Risk 2, Seaview Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Risk 9, Artificial Intelligence, have been added to the Strategic Risk Register. 4 notes the update on other activities contained within the report, and 5 notes the risk register as at 31 October 2024 attached as Appendix 1 to the report. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I saw your hand first. I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Stellinger, and then I'll go back to Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment that it's good to see the risk register being kind of used as a living document and updated with risks which really are topical and are key risks for the organisation. So it gives me good confidence that we're monitoring and putting our minds to where it matters the most. So again, I just thank the officers for some good work here.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. This is also another example of where we were 4 years ago, which we weren't in this place, this position, that we've done a lot of work on that. So thank you, Nishana, and for all your effort too. Now, Councillor Morgan.
Oh, kia ora. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Stellinger said, really, and it's very transparent, and I really thank you for the thoroughness that makes it really easy for us to read, to see exactly where the risk management is around these different areas. So really thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger and Councillor Morgan, for those comments. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Nishana. That takes us to item 11 on the agenda, which is the Human Resources Information System and Payroll Project. I'd like to welcome both Megan and Lyndon this afternoon to present the report. And again, please take the report as read. We're on page 148 of the agenda pack, if anybody's following that. So Megan, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Lyndon. Please take the report as read and just please highlight any points you wish to.
Ko kia ora koutou. This is good news for this one, which is really pleasing, in that the project initiation, market research and procurement approach has all been complete. We're currently underway with procurement, so we ran an open tender registration of interest process where we got 16 applicants for that. We have whittled them down to 4 and invited them to submit for our request for proposal, which is the full procurement approach. We have received 3 proposals, so 2 of our vendors decided to team up, and we're going through the evaluation sessions at the moment. So we've got individual evaluations currently happening. On the, sorry, I've lost my place. On the 9th, we will have demos from each of the provider, and then with the final evaluation meeting on the 19th, so we're going right up. And then we'll look hopefully to have a decision this side of Christmas and develop the business case in the next side of, in January for sign off, and let's get implementing. So good news all around with that. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Megan. I should just, before I do, just obviously like to welcome Mr. Mayor and Madam Chief Executive to the meeting. Thank you. No, we understand why you were, we accepted your apologies for lateness, so thank you for joining us. We did have a little moment earlier on and just made sure that councillors Morgan and Stellinger did not need to leave the room. Otherwise, we didn't have a quorum. So thank you. Before I open for questions, Lyndon, is there anything you'd like to add? No, thank you. Happy to go straight to questions. So, members of the committee, to open for questions on this report. Councillor Stellinger, go ahead.
Yes, just around Holidays Act compliance. If it's possible, just a brief comment as to where we're at regarding that, and are you confident that the tenders submitted are able to comply with the legislation? I know it's been a sore, long weeping for most organisations in the country.
We've done quite thorough requirements, so we worked very hard with Jenny's teams to make sure that the requirements we knew about what is needed with the Holidays Act for our organisation were in there. So there is an expectation that yes, they do meet that. We have outside expertise. It's non-voting panel members, so we've got several members of our payroll team on that non-voting member SME to really dig deep into that. We've also got Jenny, Lyndon, Kelly and Alicia, who's our, what's her role? I've forgotten her role.
Transaction Services Manager.
That's the one on our panel to try and put a lot of rigour around that. The other thing, demos will be quite tough with that. So we've put all the controls in place that we possibly can, and we will hope to interrogate that. There is also the option, if we're not sure about anything, to get some external advice, and if needed, hopefully we don't. We've got great advice on internal.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger, for the question, and also Megan for the response. In addition to what you're doing there, could I just suggest to you too, your other avenue, once you post-evaluation, etc., is obviously in contract negotiation, is make sure you've got a very tight warranty and indemnity clause in there. Thank you. Any further questions? No, thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee receives and notes the progress on the Human Resources Information System and Payroll Project. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. Is there any further discussion on this report, members? No, thank you. I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Lyndon. That takes us to item 12 on our agenda, which is on, all right, just diligence catching up for me. It's on page 151. And I would like to welcome John Kingsbury to take us through the Tiwai Takamuri o Te Awa Kairangi, the Riverlink update, please. And again, John, please just take the report as read and highlight key points.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. So yes, we will just take the report as read, but noting the project's moved on a little bit since this report was developed and submitted. So last week, Council made the decision to remove the CityLink Bridge, which is a critical part of our scope of the program, from Alliance delivery to explore delivering that in-house. We still have one piece of work, which is the most complicated intersection in the program, which is the Queen's Drive High Street, where we will be seeking to come to an agreement with NZTA for the Alliance to deliver that due to its complexity, with an asterisk there though that it needs to be affordable and represent value for money for Council. So we're working through both of those things as we go now. So we're setting up a team to explore delivering the CityLink Bridge, heading down the design track. But we feel that it would have been fiscally irresponsible to continue in the direction that we were going, because the prices we were given were just not viable for Council. So, thank you.
Thank you, John, and I'm sure again, councillors, you'll be seeing and hearing a lot more of that as you work through your draft and your plan. Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee receives and notes the information. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Is there any further discussion, members? No? Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, John. Takes us to item 13 on our agenda, which is on page 156. I'd like to invite Rona to speak to the report, please. This is the Te Pura Horonuku, the quarterly update, which is a frequent update to this committee meeting. Good afternoon, Rona. Thank you for joining us. Please, again, take the report as read and just highlight key points.
Kia ora, Madam Chair and councillors. I was hoping John would take over since he's sitting here, but a quick update. We've passed the progress mark, as you've seen the report. We're at 52%. The risks that on the appendix, they're actively managed, and we work really hard to make sure that they stay amber and green. So we've got nothing red on there, and forecast to complete still remains at June 2026. So 20 months inclusive. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rona. Are there any questions? No, thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee receives and notes the information. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stellinger, thank you. Is there any further discussion, members? Any comments? No? Thank you. I'll then put the motion, and that I'll ask all those in favour to say aye, against say no. Thank you. Declare the motion carried. That takes us to item 14 on page 163, and I'd like to invite Larkner to join us. That is the Comply with Legal Compliance Report for the period 1 January 2024 to the 30th of June 2024. Good afternoon, Larkner. Thank you for joining us. Again, please take the report as read and just highlight any key points.
Hi, Madam Chair. Thank you. Just to remark, we are pleased with the responsiveness of our staff in completing this survey. And also, just to note that the remaining 11 corrective actions noted in the attachment of this report are being reviewed till they're resolved before the next survey in January. Other than that, Madam Chair, the report can be taken as read. Yes.
Thank you, Larkner, and thank you for your work on this. Are there any questions, please? No, thank you. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee 1 notes the Comply with Legal Compliance Report for the period 1 January 2024 to 30 June 2024. 2 notes that out of the 40 non-compliances recorded during the survey, 29 are already resolved. And 3 notes that once the duplicate from the remaining 11 non-compliances have been removed, 10 corrective actions remain as attached as attachment 1 to the report. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stellinger, thank you. Is there any further discussion, members? Councillor Stellinger, thank you.
I guess from this report to us, I took some heart that things are being raised by the staff, and we're able to deliver some improvements and as a result. So yeah, I just think it just demonstrates the worth of the compliance program that we have.
Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. And again, the transparency of bringing these forward, I think, is an important point to add to that too. Any further discussion? No? Thank you. I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Lakma. That takes us to the information items we have on our agenda today. This is item 15. The first one is item A on page 170, which is the Whakatapu Nainai update, which again, a regular update to this committee. And good afternoon, Andrew. Thank you for joining us, and please take us through any key points you would like to.
Tēnā koe, Madam Chair, Mayor Barry, elected officials and CLT members. This being the last update for 2024 and hopefully the last one. Super progress in the last few weeks, few days in fact. A huge amount of activity has gone into finishing the pool. I can say we had our final successful inspection today for a certificate of public use, which enables us to use the building as it was intended. We do actually have a bit of a buffer between now and the grand opening, so quite timely that we got our CPU today, and we'll probably get practical completion tomorrow. Contractors' works insurance will finish at the end of the week, and we'll move over into public liability on Saturday at about 4 p.m. So super progress. We're really happy. We're also happy that we've had test groups actually through today testing the leisure pool. Some really happy faces, and for me, that's what this project was all about, actually getting people in and using the facility. So nothing really to know other than I had admitted that we got the Green Star 5 rating from the Green Building Council yesterday, presented with a certificate. So again, that's great news for the project, and unfortunately it didn't quite make it into the final version of the text. So take the rest of the paper as read and take any questions from the floor.
Thank you, Andrew, and that is significant progress and a great achievement. So thank you for that. I'm sure that, as you say, the happy faces using the pool is exactly what you want to see. But also thank you on behalf of the committee for all of your regular and very informative updates that you have given us. They have been appreciated, and we'd just like to acknowledge that point. So now open for any questions that members of the committee may have. Mayor Barry, please go ahead, and then Councillor Stellinger, back to you. Did you indicate a question? A comment, okay, thank you. So, Mr Mayor.
Andy, are you okay if that certificate stays in my office for, say, a few weeks?
Absolutely.
I say that in, obviously in jest, but it's an incredible achievement, that alone, for this to be the first recognised aquatic facility in New Zealand. And one that we can all be incredibly proud of. So I'll take it for a few weeks, and then maybe the chief executive, and then maybe we'll get it down to the pool as well. I reckon that's probably where it should sit. But well done, awesome job.
Can I take it to the Wairarapa?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. Madam Chief Executive.
Oh, I'm conscious Councillor Stallinger wanted to say something as well. I just wanted to, that point about the Green Star, the fact that we did look at this whole project through a risk lens and start off by saying what really matters, what do we need to hold on to? And there were times when we didn't know if we'd get things within affordability, and there was a really strong steer from governors, this matters. So that sort of holding on to your North Stars, addressing risk up front, knowing that that might mean other things might give, has got us to here. So I just want to acknowledge that process and how being here has helped that, Madam Chair. And I particularly want to acknowledge Andrea's leadership and Andrew's exceptional project management. I know they will be the first to say to me, it ain't open yet. I hear you. But this is the last one that it's here, and your mahi's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chief Executive. Councillor Stellinger, would you like to make your comment now or after I move the recommendations?
Again, just to reiterate some of those comments, I suppose, and say thank you, congratulations, and good luck for the opening.
Thank you. So I will now move the recommendations, and they are that the subcommittee, 1, receives and notes the information, and 2, notes the following progress that has been made on the Whakatupu Nainai project in the reporting period September through to October 2024. Practical completion of Te Nainai Pool and Fitness is scheduled for 15 November 2024. And as we've heard, it sounds like that's all done. Plans for a blessing and public opening of the building on Wednesday, 4 December 2024 are now well advanced. B, tenders for the Walter Millenhall Park close early November 2024, and we expect to confirm a preferred contractor mid-December 2024. Works are planned to commence site works by the end of January 2025. And C, confidence is high that the Walter Millenhall Park can be delivered on time and on budget. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Morgan, thank you. Are there any further comments or discussion, members? No, I'll then put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried, and thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrea. That takes us to the last report on our agenda today, which is the 15B on page 184, is the Audit and Risk Committee Subcommittee Forward Work Programme, which sets out, members, the reports that you should expect to see coming forward in 2025. Are there any questions? Obviously, we do add to this from time to time as various matters might arise, but this is just an outline of what you should expect. I'll then move the recommendation, and that is that the subcommittee receives and notes the forward program for 2025 attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. Is there any discussion, members? No, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye, against say no. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. I've not received any questions for this meeting, so that takes us to our closing formalities, and I'd like to ask Councillor Morgan to please take us through the closing karakia, of which the words are on the screen. Thank you, Councillor Morgan.
Kia ora koutou, please join with me. Unohea, unohea, unohea e te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nāko, te tinana, te wairua, i te ara takatū. Koia rā e rongo, whakaerihia ake e ki runga, kia wātia, ai rā, kua wātia, ho, pai mārere. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I declare this meeting closed at 2:56 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance, and also this is our last meeting for 2024.